The Invisible Guest is a Spanish film from 2016. It is entirely in Spanish and titled Contratiempo in the original language, which means setback. And as far as films go, as opposed to TV series, I think this is one of the better foreign language films that you can watch on Netflix at the moment. And to me, it's evidence of just how ignored the non-English language film scene is, in that I watched this 3 years ago and everyone I've spoken to since has never heard of it, and even my own Netflix profile, which is only ever foreign things, like I only ever watch foreign series and movies on it, still will recommend any old British or American rubbish over this. It's almost like it's in this kind of hidden collection, like, oh, you don't want to watch that, do you?
Sí, sí, señor. Por favor, hablo español.
No hablo español. I need the subtitles, actually. So anyway, I thought that it would be time for me to rewatch it and review it, and it's probably a bit better than I remember. Which is not to say that it's perfect, and I'm going to get into why, of course, but straight away from the titles, there's a real kind of small world psychological thriller vibe. We can tell that we're not going to see Interstellar or a Jason Bourne movie. The opening shots and the score tell us that there's a mystery with a psychological element that we're going to be privy to. You can almost tell from the titles that this is all going to be set in the same room or the same hotel or something like that, and it actually readies us for this hokey kind of setup that we're fed straight from the start. Our main character is being tried for murder and may be called to the stand sooner than expected. Worse than that, the state has brought forward a surprise witness, so our protagonist will have to tell his lawyer everything, including that which she insists that he hasn't yet told her. She points out that there are holes in his story which the state will exploit unless she knows what they are so that she can help him prepare. And it's a ticking tock scenario that's sort of overly convenient, but it's very fitting to the Hitchcockian vibe that the film has. Straight away, we know we're going to be regaled with a story of deception and blackmail, full of twists and turns, and all these things that we like watching movies for. If the plausibility of this setup is a problem for you, then I can guarantee that you won't like the rest of this film, because there's quite a few spots of inconsistency and far-fetchedness. Where this film really works is in the believability of the characters and how they act. It's much more important that humans act in a way that we understand than it is that objects are damaged in a believable way. And to avoid having to bring it up later, one quick criticism is that certain props, certain items in the film are not damaged in a way that they clearly should be. Anyone paying attention will be like, what? How did that happen? But generally when people say that films are not convincing or not realistic, they mean that characters acted in a way that humans just do not act, and The Invisible Guest stands up here. There are some very questionable ethical choices in this film, which is what it's about, but you feel like you can understand them. So you never feel like, well, only bad people would do that. For some of the choices, you can understand why good people might make those choices too. There are also some connections within the plot that would feel overly convenient if it weren't for that cozy school feeling that I've already mentioned. Thanks to this eerie piano score that I really like, it doesn't feel like a cheat when it comes out that certain characters are connected. It feels like it is all taking place in a house, even though it's not really. The plot twists and turns so much that it's difficult and kind of pointless to get into very much detail, but some of the best moments occur around a car accident and our protagonist's efforts to cover up that accident, which of course gets increasingly complicated in a way that I won't get into. Let's just say that having seen it before doesn't do much to calm your nerves. In these kinds of thrillers, I feel like writers and directors must always be looking for these little moments of practical gold. These small moments that can go unnoticed by the viewer, but at the same time feel believable when another character notices them. I feel like when writers come up with these, they must be like gold to them. And obviously I won't give away what it is, but suffice to say that this movie has a really clever one. Having said all that, there are a number of criticisms that I have that will seem like they balance the praise, but the number isn't as important as the severity, and thankfully none of them are severe. The main one is that the actual story here, the thing that we're really trying to get to the bottom of, takes a back seat from very early on, and when this plot twists and turns around so much and we get different versions of the same story again and again, it just you kind of actually forget what you're even trying to solve. And when we return to that, the connection between most of the movie that we just watched and this night in question, the night of the murder, seems a little bit lost. I feel like they may have done well to put the scene of the actual crime, what the film's about, right at the start, before the credits, and then later we get into everything else. And also they could have reminded us of it every now and then, because when we go back to it, we just kind of think, oh, yeah, that's right. This might help to anchor us through some of the insane amount of twisting and turning that this movie does. At times you can forget that you're watching the perspective of a certain character, so when you're presented with an alternative version of the same moment, you sort of feel like, hang on, that's not fair, you didn't show me that before, but you forget that they didn't show it to you before because the character didn't say it before. You're seeing a perspective, but you sometimes feel like the film isn't really playing fair with you. Towards the end, particularly, there are so many opposing versions presented so quickly that you can almost lose track of which one we're meant to be taking as the truth. Now, within the whole context, it's still clear what is actually happening in terms of facts, but feelings-wise, you don't feel the weight of some information as much as you could. Certain things come out and you just kind of nod like, oh, okay, and then you kind of go, oh, right. You don't really get what it means if you're not really thinking about it. I feel like even an extra 5 or 6 minutes placed into this mildly short film might give the director enough time for a few lingering shots, maybe a few extra lines of dialogue, just to really drive home the gravity of some of the events that are unfolded here. However, if you do have 100 minutes to spare over the next week or so, then I would recommend the rest of my videos. Or, of course, I would suggest The Invisible Guest. Suggest being an 8 out of 10 on my scale. It's a good score. It is a very tense film. It could do with some tightening up on a few things here or there, but overall, I'm very happy to recommend it. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it, any similar film recommendations, anything like that. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.